Latest reports to Indian-flagged liquefied petroleum gas tankers are preparing to sail through the Strait of Hormuz in the coming days, even as crude oil shipments through the key routes have come to a halt over the past 24 hours. Shipping data and trade sources indicate that the vessels could soon resume movement after a pause at a time when heightened tensions in the region have forced hundreds of ships to drop the anchor. All right, Rajat, of course, this is welcome news coming in for India. India, of course, is securing its supplies, but let's talk about the other countries in the world that are farther away from the West Asia, and largely dependent on oil from passing through the Strait of Hormuz. We're talking about countries like Canada and Japan and the European countries. They've already urged for swift passage of ships through the strait, but what can they do in the interim, given that their dependence on oil from West Asia is several times more than in India?
Precisely, especially you'll take the case of Europe. Thankfully for Europe, it is not winters, it is just summer, so their requirement of gas is relatively low. But the challenges which they are facing, especially due to crude and gas shortages, the chances are their GDP growth, especially for this financial year, is going to decrease drastically. You look at the Japan's case recently, their central bank's meeting was there and they haven't increased the rates. And that is again a challenge. They haven't modified it, and the kind of challenges they are saying that Japan is going to face in upcoming months are problematic. If in comparison to India, obviously these countries are more relying on gases, but China and Russia, they are different cases, because Russia is gaining a lot because of getting opportunity to sell its crude and gas. Because earlier, because of US restrictions, it was stopped. However, because of its pipeline through to China and now US allowing Russia to sell crude and gas to other countries as well, it is gaining at the premium rate. Because earlier India was getting these at discounted prices, now there are premium rates. With China, the problem, see, there are two things with China. China is having good relationship with Iran. Iran has opened Strait of Hormuz for China. However, there is going to be a problem for industrial development for China as well, because there are because of, see, whenever there is a challenge for or a war there are going to be supply chain issues. There can be other countries or other industries which may not require Chinese equipments or Chinese machinery at this juncture. So the export part of China is going to suffer in some form, and also the the cost of import will increase for China. So every country in that scenario is getting affected in some form or the other, some more, some less. But it will be really good for the world if the war ends as soon as possible.
All right, sure. I'm also, in fact, joined in by retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar, who's a defense expert here. Dr. Kochar, very good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us. The strikes on Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean, how tough does the situation for India become?
See, now what is happening is that the situation on the energy front, as far as I visualize, in terms of crude oil is stable. You may see a slight increase in price, and availability, I don't see a problem. Because last month our imports from Russia was 1.1 billion barrels a day, and now it has increased to 1.8 billion barrels a day, and likely to increase to a double, that is 2.2 billion barrels a day. So whatever our 40% imports we were taking from the Gulf is going to be offset more or less from Russia. Second important is that Venezuela gates are also open, and from there also we are likely to get. So and USA is also has been contracted for the crude oil. So I don't visualize a major problem as far as crude oil is concerned. Now, this point about LNG gas is that because you just mentioned that two tankers of uh, LNG you are on the way or have left the Strait of Hormuz. You see, unfortunately, that meets only 1 day's requirement because our 1 day's consumption of LNG is 85,000 tons per day. And these tankers are of a capacity of around 40,000 tons or so. So it barely meets a requirement for 1 day, and we have a paucity of reserves. As a matter of fact, we have only 21 days reserves, and we have only two underground caverns in the whole country. So I think, Kriti, I think in the larger context, there is going to be a problem. And with the Qatar gas fields having been damaged and Strait of Hormuz not opening out, uh, both things are going to contribute to this shortage. And possibly government is appealing for the PNG, pipe natural gas consumers to increase because PNG consumers are only 1.2 crores in the country, and we would like to have more of them. And most of our domestic production of gas, PNG, uh, can be sustained, but not the LPG. So I think that is will be one concern. The second concern will be the prices, because these prices are likely to be passed on to the consumers. We've already heard that some petroleum companies have already raised the price of retail petrol and diesel by around 2 rupees 50 paisa. So that is going to impact the consumers straight away. And in times to come, in case the price of crude oil, as has been envisaged, may reach around $140 a barrel. And if that happens, I think then consumers have to be prepared to take on a price rise. But the silver lining here is that there are some reports that we may see the end of this conflict very, very soon. Statements of Trump and Netanyahu are giving us a hint to that. And at the same time, we are also hearing around 2,500 Marines, you see, are on the way, and a likely target is Kirk Island. Kirk Island is hardly 20 square kilometers, uh, maybe 6 kilometers by 3 kilometers or so. It's not much of an objective, and possibly Trump is very, very concerned about the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz. He wants to open it. It won't be easy task, let me tell you, even after you take the Kirk Islands, even after you are able to uh, you enlarge your presence in that area. The asymmetrical method of warfare which Iran has, and the kind of mines which can be placed, because we need to remember that the width of Strait of Hormuz is just about 33 kilometers, and there are only two sea lanes available, and 6 kilometer, 3 kilometers one way, 3 kilometers other way, and a buffer of 3 kilometers. So basically a 9 kilometer area, and these are predetermined routes. Like the ships have to go on these sea lanes, and therefore they can be easily mined, and it will be like finding a needle in the haystack. It'll be very difficult to look at these mines. They have midget submarines, though it is reported that the US has destroyed 9 Iranian submarines, but they have a number of midget submarines also who can lay these mines. And then don't forget the threat of swarm drones.
Right.
Drones can target these ships at will.
All
So
right.
I don't